Exposed, 7 spine-chilling tales of sinister children and their haunted secrets. In the hushed corners of Maple Grove, where white picket fences gleamed in the moonlight, there lurked shadows that whispered dark secrets. Sarah, a single mother, felt the weight of dread as she tucked her children in at night. Outside, a chorus of eerie laughter floated from the neighborhood kids, punctuated by sinister tones. It wasn't the playful giggling she remembered, it was something darker, more primal. "Tommy, what are you drawing?" she asked one evening, noting the shadows swarming the paper. "Just a house," he replied, but the tremor in his voice sent chills down her spine. It was more than just a house, it was an abandoned place at the forest's edge, a place draped in warning. Weeks passed, and dread hung heavy in their home like a creeping fog. Tommy had grown distant, retreating into his own world where darkness thrived. Lily's eyes widened with fear as she spoke of the game her friends were playing, hushed whispers around that accursed house. Sarah felt a knot tightening in her stomach. The laughter she heard outside took on a new tone, tinged with something that gnawed at her sanity, sending shivers down her spine. One particularly chilly night, as she returned from her shift at the diner, she overheard snippets of the children's hushed conversations. Her heart raced. They spoke of a curse, of shadowy figures lurking in the woods, of a missing child. Goosebumps prickled her skin. "No, this couldn't be real. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Ignoring her instincts felt foolish. Each night, Tommy and Lily's whispering grew louder, filling the air with a palpable tension that coiled around her throat until she could barely breathe. Cold drafts swept through their home, flickering lights casting shadows that danced along the walls, making the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. She sought help from neighbors who once offered warm smiles, but their eyes held a coldness that turned her stomach. One evening, despair guided her steps to the treacherous house, its silhouette looming as a haunting specter at the edge of the woods. The air shifted, thick with a suffocating dread as an acrid scent twisted her gut. Inside, the walls seemed alive, whispering her name, drawing her into the depths of madness. It was there, in the dim light, that she uncovered the truth, a tragic disappearance woven into the fabric of the children's secret game. As Sarah staggered back, the sun dipped beyond the horizon, casting sinister shadows that crept towards her. Tommy's laughter rang out, but it was not just his voice. The whispers intertwined, echoing in her mind, beckoning her to join them. Then, she froze at the doorway. Her neighbor stood there, a bone-chilling smile etched across his face, eyes sparking with an understanding that made the blood drain from her cheeks. The implications twisted in her mind, tearing at the fragile fabric of her world. An insidious truth sat heavy, waiting for her to make the one choice she never knew existed. What horror lay beneath the polished surface of Maple Grove? Sarah's heartbeat pounded in her ears, drowning out the laughter that twisted from the depths of the forest. The neighbor's smile widened, though his eyes betrayed a hunger that chilled her to the core. She wanted to flee, to drag her children far from this malevolent place, but her feet felt glued to the ground, paralyzed by the horror unfolding around her. "What do you want?" she finally choked out, fighting the urge to back away, to seek refuge. "Ah, Sarah," he cooed, his voice smooth as silk, yet thick with malice. "You've stepped into a game that's been played for years. And dear, it's time you understood the rules." The word "game" slithered between them, suffocating her with dread. Her mind raced back to Tommy and Lily, lost in their whispers, their laughter mingling with those malevolent children outside. She thought of the curse, the missing child. Wasn't he there, a mirror to reflect this twisted reality? What could he possibly mean? "The curse doesn't choose," he continued, his breath hot against the chilling air. It only claims what it desires. And tonight, it seems the darkness craves a new player. As he spoke, shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, inching closer with every heartbeat. Panic clawed at her throat. "I need to go, I have to get my kids." The words spilled out, each laden with desperation. But reality crumbled into fragments when she heard Tommy's voice echoing from the house. "Mom! Come play." The innocence in his tone cut deeper than any blade. Heart racing, she turned back to the house as if compelled by an invisible force. She had to save them. Yet, as she approached, the front door creaked open slowly, revealing a thick darkness that hung like a shroud inside. "Tommy? Lily?" She called out, her voice trembling, swallowed by the void that beckoned her further. No response. Just silence that pressed upon her like a weight. Unwillingly, she took a cautious step inside. The air was stale, thick with a sense of foreboding, as if the house itself was breathing her in. She felt it then, the whisper of shadows, the chill of eyes upon her. Children's laughter echoed in the hallways, luring her deeper until she could almost feel their tiny hands tugging at her, pulling her into the dark. Sarah spotted Tommy's drawing on the mantel, the house at the edge of the forest eerily resembling the very space she now stood in. It felt alive, pulsating with secrets unsaid. Her mind spun, catching glimpses of the other children's faces, their eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. Lily's giggle danced through the air like a haunting melody. "Mom! We want you to see." A new wave of terror washed over her. The shadows shifted, closing in, and she glimpsed ghostly figures emerging, children with hollow cheeks and hauntingly wide smiles that split their faces. They weren't just playing, they were beckoning, luring her into the darkest parts of their world. "Join us, Sarah. We've been waiting," they whispered, voices entwined like vines tightening around her heart. In that moment, sobs choked her throat. Sarah fought against the pull, but as she turned to leave, she felt cold hands grasp her wrists. The neighbor watched, still smiling, an outsider to this monstrous invitation. Desperately, she tore her gaze away from those lost children, ripping herself from the gruesome reality. "No! Stay back!" She screamed, her voice a raw plea as the darkness threatened to consume her whole. But what she didn't know was that the shadows had already lain claim to her soul. With one anguished cry, she lunged back, turning away just as the last flicker of light faded from sight, plunging her into a nightmare of despair. Time slipped away, stealing her sanity, and she stood frozen in the threshold of a horrifying choice. Dare she save her children, or would she too become part of the sinister game that ensnared Maple Grove? And above all, as she stood there trembling, would she find the strength to confront the terrible truth of what awaited her, waiting just beyond the shadows? Sarah's heart raced, a frantic drum in the suffocating silence. The darkness whispered, 1,000 voices colliding into a cacophony that gnawed at her sanity. "What's happening?" she murmured, afraid the walls might answer. The figures loomed closer, those children with sunken eyes, their smiles too wide, too stretched. "Come, play." They moved with unnatural grace, every step a pulse of dread coursing through her. The warmth of the outside world faded, replaced by an icy grip that wrapped around her heart. "Tommy! Lily!" She shouted again, her voice cracking under the strain of her panic. There was nothing but the laughter of shadows, mocking, enticing. She clenched her fists, fighting the wave of despair washing over her. They were just kids, just like her own. But there was something off, something terrifyingly wrong. A child with tangled hair emerged from the murky depths, extending a pale hand. "Don't be scared, we're all friends here." The false sweetness of the invitation made bile rise in her throat. "Stay back." She recoiled, a primal fear surging through her veins. A flicker of hesitation crossed the child's face, and for a brief moment, their features morphed into something cruel, something predatory. The neighbor's figure loomed over her shoulder, a grinning specter of malevolence. It's too late for fear now, Sarah. The game has begun. He stepped closer, his breath mingling with hers, thick and suffocating. She spun around, desperate for an exit, but the shadows had already encased her. The door was gone, replaced by a wall of darkness. Panicking, she tugged against the spectral hands that had grasped her wrists, but it was like fighting a current that pulled her deeper. Join us. The children chanted now, a hypnotic rhythm that tied her thoughts into knots. You'll never be alone again. Visions flickered around her. Tommy and Lily, their faces lit with fear, shadows converging around them. Mom! Their cries stitched shards of ice into her heart. No! I want to let you take them. The defiance surged from within, filling her until she could hardly breathe. Sarah ripped her wrists from their ghostly grasp and stumbled backward. The laughter morphed into a roar, engulfing her. You can't do this. Don't you see? A voice slithered through the chaos, the neighbor's smirk sharp in the darkness. You've already lost. No one leaves Maple Grove. With a roar of defiance, she lunged forward into the mass of shadows, determined to reach her children. The figures closed in, pressing against her, their whispers like biting winds. Save yourself, or join us. And then she saw them, Tommy and Lily, silhouetted under a grave glow. They stood frozen, eyes wide with terror. The darkness swirled around them, pulling them into its cold embrace. Mom, help! The panic in their small voices pierced her heart like a dagger. Sarah pushed harder against the shadows, adrenaline pumping, creating a thin veil of hope. Could she grab them before it was too late? She dodged between the chilling fingers of the lost children, reaching for her own with all the strength left in her. Hold on. But as she neared, a sickening realization sank in like stone. What tethering force bound her to this nightmarish scene? The depth of her voice cracked with desperation. Come with me. Please. But the shadows churned violently, emblems of a profound darkness that had claimed too many before her. Just then, she felt a sharp pain shoot through her leg, the icy tendrils of the dark children gripping her tighter. One final scream erupted from her lips as her vision blurred, Tommy and Lily dissolving into the shadows. Would they drift forever in this haunted abyss? Or was there a choice left to make? And as the last flicker of light was devoured, a chilling whisper echoed against the silence. Your turn is coming, Sarah. What lay on the other side of despair? Would she have the courage to cross the threshold? All that remained was the ominous laughter growing louder, echoing in the depths of Maple Grove. Sarah felt herself being pulled, as if 1,000 hands were grasping at her, sucking her deeper into the suffocating blackness. Panic surged within her, a primal fear clawing at her insides. She couldn't breathe. The shadows were closing in with a ferocity that stole her words before they even left her lips. The children's voices morphed into a discordant symphony, each note sharper than the last. You'll never escape. They taunted, their faces shifting, twisting into grotesque masks of glee. How many children had she seen? How many had vanished, claimed by this unfathomable horror? Tommy. Lily. She screamed again, desperation slicing through her. But they weren't there, not anymore. Just shadows, swirling and taunting. A cold laugh brushed against her, chilling her to the bone. The neighbor emerged from the darkness, his smile stretched unnaturally wide. There's no one to save you now. Sarah bolted, her instincts screaming at her to run, but the invisible walls of darkness constricted around her like a noose. The ground beneath her was not solid, but an endless abyss urging her to fall deeper. She stumbled, her legs faltering. Every step felt like she was wading through molasses, each heartbeat echoing like a countdown to doom. Suddenly, a figure materialized before her, flickering in and out of existence. It was a woman she recognized, Mrs. Jenkins, the kind old lady from down the street. But there was no warmth in her eyes, they were black like the void, her expression a blend of pity and malice. You have to let them go, dear. It's what they want. No. Sarah felt the rage ignite, pouring adrenaline into her veins. I want to let my children be taken from me. Mrs. Jenkins's mouth curved into an unsettling smirk, her voice dripping honeyed malice. Once you're here, you belong to us just like them. With a renewed surge of determination, Sarah screamed and lunged at her, but Mrs. Jenkins melted away, as if she were made of smoke. The darkness warped and twisted, revealing fleeting glimpses of Tommy and Lily, their eyes shimmering with fear. Mom! In that moment, a core of clarity hit her. She was not the only one fighting. There was power in her love, an unyielding force. I'm coming. She charged forward, ignoring the shadowy figures reaching for her, refusing to yield to their whispers. The shadows shrieked in anger, the walls reverberating with their fury. As she dove into the swirl of darkness, Sarah felt something shift. An echo of light flashed in her mind, memories of laughter, of joy, of holding her children in her arms, of every bedtime story and every moment they were together. Hold on. I'm almost there. But a shadow shot out, clawing across her face, an icy pain coursing through her. The sensation of being watched enveloped her. She contorted and writhed but couldn't break free. No. Fear clawed at her throat as she felt herself being whisked away. She was losing them. Join us, Sarah, the shadows chanted with cruel delight. You will never be alone again. In her mind, a chilling thought formed. What if the children were already lost? What if she was too? The shadows pulsed around her, a heartbeat resonating through the darkness. Would she succumb to their beckoning? As hope waned and darkness loomed, she felt an overwhelming presence grip her, something dreadful, an ancient darkness. Was it watching her? Waiting? Despair clawed at her hope, and in the depths of her heart, a cruel whisper slithered into her mind. What if you are meant to become one of us? Stretched between terror and the desperate need to save her children, Sarah's resolve shook. The darkness was tightening its grip. Could she escape? Mom! Their cries echoed louder now, more desperate. What was happening to them? With the specter of despair lurking just behind her, Sarah had to choose. Would she fight till the end, disregarding her own fate? Or was surrender the ultimate sacrifice, her only path left? And far away in the shadows, a figure watched, its eyes gleaming with hungry anticipation. The game was far from over. The shadows pulsated, a living entity feeding off her fear. Sarah felt her will slipping, the grip of despair tightening around her heart. She could sense the cold fingers of the abyss ready to pull her deeper, dragging her further from her children. Mom! Help! Their cries pierced through the darkness like shards of glass, each syllable dripping with pain and terror. Sarah's heart raced, the shock of their despair fueling her resolve. I won't let you go. She yelled into the void, willing every ounce of strength into her voice. But it was as if the darkness laughed. You are too late. The voices twisted, mocking her hope. We already have them. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her, a tempest of swirling shadows threatening to compartmentalize her fear. She stumbled, nearly losing her footing. The ground felt slick and unstable, an unnerving sensation that sent her heart pounding harder against her ribcage. She gasped for breath as she pressed forward, every ounce of her motivation pinned on Tommy and Lily. Time felt irrelevant, stretching and contracting like the shadows around her. Each passing second felt like an eternity as she clawed through the murk, but she could still hear them. Whispers drifted to her, chilling her bones. Join us, be with us. No. That was a trap. Sudden clarity sliced through her haze. The shadows wanted to turn her against her own love. They fed on despair and doubt. If she faltered, if she allowed their sickening invitations to seep in, she'd lose everything. Tommy. Lily. She bellowed, desperation clawing at her throat. The children's names were the anchors to her reality, the tether fighting against the pull of the darkness. She could hear their faint giggles, just out of reach, but they were fading. And then came another voice, softer, feathery, curiously luring. It tried to wrap around her heart like a gentle caress. "Sarah, don't fight it, embrace what we offer," she stopped, caught. There was an undeniable allure to that voice. Was it really a promise of happiness? A restoration of her family? A chance to escape the pain? Shadows flickered, revealing moments of joy, Tommy's laughter, Lily's bright eyes. Would this paradise come at a cost? But as she paused, a shrill scream broke through the allure. "Mom!" It shocked her back to reality. No. She was not here to be seduced. She was here to save. With renewed ferocity, Sarah pressed on, pushing through the engulfing darkness. But it lashed back, snapping at her like 1,000 hungry jaws. Each attempt to move felt increasingly futile. Then something cold grasped her ankle, dragging her down. Panic flooded her, and she kicked fiercely, the sense of imminent doom overwhelming. "You can't take me." The ground trembled as more figures emerged, their faces mere echoes of her children, but wrong, so wrong. They reached for her with skeletal hands, their eyes hollow. "Join us, Sarah," she shook her head, refusing to succumb. The shadows shrieked in rage as Sarah summoned every ounce of love she had within her. "Get away from me. I will fight for them." Her shouts forced the shadows back, and with a surge of determination, she could almost feel light at the edges of her vision, glimmering like a promise in the distance. But as she reached toward it, a piercing scream erupted from the abyss, loud enough to drown out all thoughts. "No. You will be one with us." The walls shivered, twisting, threatening to collapse around her. With limbs shaking, Sarah lunged for the light, feeling the shadows clawing at her, wrenching her spirit. Had she waited too long? What if another chilling thought held her captive? What if they already belonged to us? Gasping, she hesitated, caught between hope and despair. Did she have the strength to break through? As a cacophony of howls erupted, her heart thundered. The darkness coiled around her, ready to strike once more. A sudden, blinding light flickered within, igniting hope against the encroaching shadows. But could it be enough? What lay ahead when hope felt so fragile? Would she make it, or would the shadows claim her in their grasp? And from the depths of darkness, eyes glimmered with an insatiable hunger. They were waiting. The hunt was not over. The darkness roared, a feral scream echoing through the chasm of despair, shaking Sarah to her core. She willed her legs to move but felt as if the very ground conspired against her, resisting her every effort. The light beckoned her, a frail glimmer in an endless night, but shadows slashed at her, fracturing that fragile hope. "Mom!" The anguished cries of her children twisted around her, pulling her in all directions, like puppets on strings controlled by the unseen puppeteer lurking in the dark. They felt closer. Their voices harmonized in a haunting melody, a siren-esque call she could hardly ignore. But she couldn't give in. "I'm coming!" she yelled, her voice cutting through the haze. Each word was a lifeline, clinging to them as tightly as she could. A flash of movement off to the side drew her notice. Figures darted just beyond the reach of light, their forms blurring like old film footage. She squinted, desperately trying to maintain her focus despite the mounting pressure pressing against her. "Mommy!" A tiny voice, drowned in sorrow, slithered through the air. It was Lily, her sweetest girl, almost unrecognizable beneath the weight of despair. "Help us, Mommy!" "No!" Panic clawed at Sarah as a wave of dread crashed over her, threatening to pull her under. That voice, there was fear buried deep within it. The shadows must have twisted her sweet Lily's spirit. Clenching her fists, Sarah took a breath, pushing back against the darkness trying to suffocate her. "I won't leave you. I will find you." But the shadows cried louder, braiding themselves into her mind. "You are too late. We are family now." The ground groaned beneath her, fissures breaking open, revealing swirling voids that threatened to swallow her whole. She stumbled backward, eyes wide with terror, but resolve exploded within her chest. If she was going to plunge into the abyss, she would drag the shadows down with her. As if sensing her determination, the shadows recoiled for a moment. In that instant, she lunged towards the light, arms outstretched, but rusty chains of darkness dug into her, winding tighter, pulling her back. "Let me go!" she screamed, fighting every instinct that begged her to submit to the void. But the embrace of shadows felt sickeningly familiar, tantalizing, as if whispering what she desperately wanted to hear. "Join us, Sarah, shut up." She gritted her teeth, refusing to be ensnared. The laughter that followed chilled her anew, a chorus of lost souls coming together in a mocking symphony. "Mommy! Help us!" The voices faded yet again, swallowed by the insatiable appetite of the darkness, leaving Sarah gasping in disbelief. "No! No! No!" Determined, she ripped at the shadows that clung like a second skin, dragging heavy breaths from her lungs. As she fought, she sensed the light pulse brighter, pushing against the waves of despair. It offered warmth, hope, a chance for reclamation of her family. But shadowy tendrils wrapped tighter, smashing despair into her, emptying her lungs of breath. She could feel her spirit faltering, spiraling toward the realm of the lost. She closed her eyes, reaching deep within, searching for her anchor. Tommy. Lily. She cast their names like harpoons into the thick, choking fog. "I am coming for you." An electric shock rippled through the ashen landscape. In her mind, visions of her children sprang forth, their laughter cracking the gloom like lightning, sparking a fierce rebellion inside her. A voice stronger now. "Fight!" The shadows recoiled in a frenzy, forming a cyclone of rage, howling with fury against her newfound resolve. "Together, sweethearts. I will not let them have you." Sarah took one last breath, feeling the strength of the bond with her children ignite. And then, plunging forward, she cast herself into the blinding light. But as she dove, a hand reached out, cold, skeletal fingers grasping at her heart, pulling what lay ahead. Would she emerge into the light, or become yet another lost soul in the darkness that writhed with hunger? And as the clamoring voices fell silent, the moment was suffocating. The shadows. Tensed, waiting. Waiting for something to break. The light enveloped her, bright and consuming, pulling her through an endless tunnel that twisted and turned, a whirlwind of color and sound. For a second, it seemed that hope fluttered within her grasp. The cold fingers loosened, flailing helplessly as they receded into darkness. Sarah gasped, feeling warmth wash over her, and with it came the sound of her children laughing, playing, vibrant. "Mommy! Over here!" But that sweet harmony fractured into monstrous echoes. The brightness faded as shadows crept back in on her, hungry and relentless. The joy transformed into something sinister, their laughter took on a twisted tone, glee and torment entwined. What had she stepped into? The ground felt solid beneath her feet again, but it wasn't right. She blinked, hesitant. The environment shifted from light to dark, a warped version of the familiar. There stood her house decaying and shrouded in mist. But it felt wrong. Its windows gaped like hollow eyes, watching her with a predatory stare. "Tommy? Lily?" she called, her voice trembling as it collided with the thick air. They didn't answer. Instead, the shadows began to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat, a heartbeat gunning faster and faster. "Help us!" Their voices drifted through the air, laced with a bone-chilling desperation. Sarah's heart plummeted into her stomach. The shadows were thickening again, gathering in waves around her ankles, wrapping tighter, pulling her back towards their clutches. "No!" She stumbled, instinctively moving toward the door, but it creaked open as if expecting her. An irresistible force beckoned her, an ancient whisper promising reunion but at a cost. "Join us," it murmured, slithering into her mind, tantalizing her with the sweet scent of familiarity. Images flashed: Tommy's bright eyes, Lily's innocent smile. They were here, waiting. The room danced with flickers of light and dark, pulling her deeper into its hypnotic trance. "Mommy, please." Stubbornly, she shook her head, trying to break free of this poison. "No. I won't abandon you." But another part of her, the weary, terrified part, craved the darkness, the acceptance, the sense of slipping away from all responsibility. It promised safety from the unbearably crushing weight of the world. The shadows fringed her thoughts, whispering of failure, of loss. The voices sang in discord, merging into a cacophony of chaos. "Welcome home." She staggered, terror washed over her like cold rain. Desperation took hold, mixing anguish with a relentless desire to save her children. Visions flashed inside her mind, Tommy trapped beneath piles of whispers, Lily's laughter echoing without heart. Together, together. They sang now, a twisted melody of loss and longing. Sarah steadied herself and screamed, "I will not be forgotten. I will fight." The darkness surged, trying to drown her words in its relentless tide. But her voice thundered louder now, breaking through the suffocating fog. "I love you, Tommy. I love you, Lily." With every syllable, the shadows trembled, momentarily losing their grip. She lunged forward again, fighting not just the dark but that visceral pull toward despair. Yet the door before her pulsed, breathing like a living thing. An aperture to unknown horrors lay beyond. "Mommy!" The cries twisted around her, now accompanied by agonized wails. Reality warped, pulses of light flickered through, flickering images challenging her sanity. She felt the walls closing in, darkness clawing at her resolve. Was she strong enough to pierce through? To break the spell that kept her children from her arms? Or would she tumble into a new nightmare, shackled to this accursed place forever? An echoing cacophony muffled her thoughts, spiraling her helplessly into the darkness, into the void. As shadows billowed around her, their whispers painfully familiar, Sarah braced for impact. But an unexpected surge of light flickered within her, an ember of hope. Could she harness it? Could it lead her home? The darkness thickened, swallowing her scream as she leaped one last time. But what awaited her on the other side? Would it be sanctuary or suffocation? Each beat of her heart synchronized with the chaos, a moment poised on the knife's edge. The world cracked like glass beneath her feet, the screeching chaos dissolving into an unbearable stillness. Sarah felt weightless, suspended in a void. Blinding light surrounded her, yet she was alone. The warmth she felt, the laughter of her children, it was all gone. Had she truly escaped, or had she merely entered another layer of this nightmare? The light faded, and darkness yawned open once more, like a monstrous maw ready to consume her. A single spark of remains, an image of Tommy's hopeful face, Lily's outstretched arms briefly flashed before her, suffusing her with despair. "Mommy!" The call was clear, sharp as a knife, cutting through her frantic thoughts. It echoed with a clarity that sent chills down her spine, each syllable hammering into her heart. It couldn't be an illusion again, could it? Time unraveling in unbearable knots, she stumbled forward, propelled by blind desperation. Around her, the shadows twisted and contorted, forming grotesque shapes that reached for her with clawed hands. Walls loomed close, smothering her with an oppressive weight. A low growl rumbled through the air, a warning that twisted her gut. "Leave, now!" Suddenly, a heart-stopping cry pierced the air, a scream drowning in agony. It was a sound she recognized, the sound of a child in terror. Sarah's heart raced, pounding violently against her ribcage. Without thinking, she darted towards it, pushing through the dense fog of despair. But as she moved, the ground shivered beneath her, surfaces rippling like water disturbed by unseen monsters. The shadows danced around her feet again, more alive, more insistent. They whispered secrets, enticing her with fears, memories of forgotten days, of happy moments turned sour. "Join us, be one with us," their voices wove into a tapestry of anguish, echoing her deepest doubts. She stumbled, feeling the ground shift like a sun-kissed mirage, and she fell to her knees. Light began to pulse from within her, a flicker against the encroaching dark. With trembling hands, she pressed onto the earth, defiantly calling out once more. "Tommy! Lily! Where are you?" The shadows recoiled, hissing as if her words were daggers piercing their essence. Suddenly, a door materialized before her, its edges glowing like the sun, inviting yet ominous. Was this the way to her children? Or a trap set by the horrors lurking just beyond? The cries faded, replaced by the sound of something rustling behind her, a shuffling, creaking presence that made her skin crawl. "Mommy!" The whisper was softer now, almost sweet, nurturing in its tone. She turned to see the door at her back cloaked in a black mist, writhing with malevolent intent. The danger was palpable, a fight against the urge to surrender to it. "Shut up, shut up," Sarah muttered, pulling herself to her feet, heart racing. The image of her children anchored her, an anchor amid the tempest of voices. She surged forward, reaching for the illuminated door, breath hitching as she grasped the handle, its warmth flooding her palm. "Mommy! Don't leave!" Their cries pounded in her ears, swelling with insistence, urgency. Each plea tore at her insides, hollering for her to turn back, but she pressed on, desperate to break the cycle. With a fateful twist, she flung the door wide. What lay beyond? Light cascaded, blinding her momentarily as blasts of freezing air rushed past her. It felt almost welcoming. But was it a way out, or the next stage of her agony? The shadows howled behind her, and she stepped through, heart pounding louder than ever before. In that blinding moment, Sarah knew she had crossed a threshold, but into what fate had she just stumbled? The echoes weren't silent anymore, their chaos harmonized into one unified scream. And as the door slammed shut behind her, she could only wonder, would she find her children, or had she walked away from them forever? Light enveloped her, but it thrummed as if alive, a pulsating heartbeat serenading her entry. Blinking against the brilliance, Sarah stepped forward, confusion clawing at her mind. Where am I? The air was colder, biting her cheeks, and yet the world around her shimmered with a haunting beauty. In the distance, a glimmering river wound its way through a landscape that appeared both serene and sinister. The trees stood tall, their branches twisted and gnarled, like arms reaching for salvation but forever caught in torment. "Mommy!" The voice reached her, now unmistakably clearer than before, reverberating across the stillness. It wrapped around her heart, drawing her closer to the source. She followed, each step heavy and uncertain, swallowed by a growing dread. Suddenly, the sky cracked with thunder, dark clouds rolling in like the tide, washing away the fragile peace. The air thickened, weighed down by a malignant presence, and shadows slipped from between the trees, their forms shifting and writhing. They danced toward her, clawed hands beckoning, whispering promises, dark secrets hidden beyond her reach. "Don't look back, don't look!" With every backward glance, shadows threatened to close in, shadows that fed on fear, shadows that thrived in doubt. She pressed forward, drawn by the hope of her children's voices. The weight of her heart thrummed in rhythm with the whispers around her, "Join us, give in." Panic surged as she stumbled upon a clearing. A towering figure loomed at its center, shrouded in mist. It was a woman, hollow-eyed and dressed in tattered white, her hair flowing like dark water. The apparition raised a hand, beckoning her closer. "Come here." The truth. Sarah's breath quickened. The air felt electric, charged with something unspeakable. She hesitated, torn between stepping closer or fleeing back into the woods. What could this specter reveal? The possibilities spun through her mind, each one darker than the last. "Mommy!" The heart-wrenching wail from the distance cut through her hesitation like a knife. It echoed, a cry drenched in anguish. With renewed resolve, she turned on her heel, darting away from the figure. "You cannot escape." The woman's voice followed her, haunting and distant, yet filled with an unearthly authority. Shadows crawled behind her, gaining ground like a predator stalking its prey, an unseen weight tightening around her throat. "Lily! Tommy! She screamed their names, the sound mingled with her desperation. The forest around her twisted and closed in, branch-clad fingers clawing at her hair, her skin. The ground felt alive beneath her feet, pulsing like a living thing, willing her to remain. A rush of cold air almost knocked her off balance. She stumbled, yet pressed forward, praying to find them. Her footsteps led her to a glimmer of movement deep in the trees, an outline, shadowy and indistinct. Was it them? A soft, beckoning light illuminated the space. Hope surged through her, blocking out the fear. She sprinted, pushing through the thicket. Suddenly, an icy flash of pain shot through her legs. She stumbled, gasping as she fell to the ground, the leaves crunching beneath her weight. The shadows loomed, hissing her name, "Mommy, stay!" She clawed at the earth, scrambling to her feet again, adrenaline coursing. Breathless, she forced herself to keep moving. "Mommy!" The cries seemed to envelop her again, now sounding like a chant that pierced through the haze. The deeper she plunged into the forest, the more the earth seemed to resist her. "Where are you?" But the answers would not come easily. Just then, like a punch to her gut, a chilling realization settled in. The shadows weren't just pursuing her, they were holding back something darker. Waiting for her reach the end of this twisted path. With every ounce of strength, she pushed ahead, determined to unveil the truth lurking in the darkness. Was it her children waiting for her, or had she awakened something more ominous? As the shadows whispered promises of despair behind her, she felt an ominous presence shift within, tightening like a noose. Now, more than ever, she needed to know the truth. With a voice like thunder, the forest rumbled, "Are you ready to see?" The ground trembled, and Sarah froze. What would she discover? And would she be prepared for the revelation waiting for her just ahead? The world twisted around Sarah, the shadows swelling with anticipation. She braced herself, anger and love fueling her defiance. "I have to find them," she whispered, heart pounding, each step a battle against the menacing forces clawing at her. "I won't let you take my children." The chilling laughter echoed through the trees, warped and mocking. "You think you can save them? They are already ours." The shadowy figures loomed closer, inches from her skin, but she pushed back the wave of despair rising in her throat. "Tommy! Lily!" she called, her voice desperate, reverberating through the suffocating darkness. She felt their presence could draw near, could burst forth from the facade of terror that held them captive. A shimmer of light flickered in the distance, a tiny beacon of hope amidst the swirling chaos. The shadows recoiled as if stung by her resolve, but they were relentless. A guttural growl emanated from behind her, a reminder of the monstrous force stalking her every move. "I won't allow you to take them," she screamed, fueling her voice with every ounce of strength left. Reaching the light felt like reaching for salvation, her children at the end of this torment as she sprinted forward. The ground beneath her shifted, turning sharp, treacherous. She fell but rolled, scrambling back to her feet. "Come on, Sarah. You're almost there," she urged herself as the laughter intensified, building into an ear-splitting roar. "Mommy! Help!" Those piercing cries fortified her resolve. As she tore through the underbrush, shadows clawed at her shirt, their spindly fingers snagging at her limbs. With a primal scream, she swatted them away. Not today. In that moment, a rush of warmth engulfed her, the dazzling flicker illuminating her path. The intensifying glow revealed a small figure standing just beyond the darkness. It was Lily, her face pale, eyes wide in fear yet flickering with something brighter hope. "Mommy!" she cried, reaching out, the desperation in her voice igniting pure fury within Sarah. "No!" yelled a chorus of shadows, their cold fingers snapping at her heels, trying to pull her back into the abyss. Summoning every ounce of will left, Sarah charged forward, grasping Lily's hand just in time. "I've got you." The warmth of their hands connected through the frigid air, sparking a surge of courage. "Tommy's in there." Lily pointed into the shadows, her voice unwavering. "We have to help him. I won't let anything happen to you," Sarah stated fiercely, determination burning in her chest. Together, they stepped into the flickering light, reaching for Tommy's presence, a warmth buried beneath despair. "No. You can't take her," the neighbor's voice called, and with a burst of power, the shadows screamed around them, flailing violently, crawling for access. "You'll regret it." It felt like an eternity as they pushed further, the shadows howling in abject fury, but Sarah wouldn't yield. She grasped her children tightly, hearts woven together in love amid the fray. "Stay close," she shouted, and together they fought the dark, merging their strength against the relentless tide clawing to reclaim them. With mounting frustration, she realized that the shadows only thrived when fed fear. The truth resonated deeply within her. "We are more than this," Sarah bellowed. "We are together." The shadows writhed, intensifying their assault, pulling back, testing her resolve. But that familial bond, it was a flame, a fierce beacon illuminating every corner of fear. Suddenly, light burst forth, overwhelming the encroaching darkness, its dissolving tendrils shimmered brightly, revealing the hidden faces of the children trapped within. "Mommy!" Tommy's voice rang clear as they emerged from the shadows, glimmering like diamonds in the night, their skeletal features now softened, happier, hopeful. "No! No!" The shadows shrieked, but it was too late. Sarah led her children onward, strength flooding her limbs like wildfire, revitalized by love. With one strong lunge, they dove into the radiant warmth. All at once, the darkness shrieked and coiled back, like a struck serpent. Drawn back into the depths of despair, broken by their resilience. Together, they landed in the protective warmth of light. The world around them transformed, filled with color, life, and laughter. The twisted trees sprouted lush green leaves, every trace of haunting shadows vanishing without a trace. They stood together, heartbeats sinking in rhythm, the weight of despair melting away. "We're free," Sarah whispered, hardly able to believe it. Tears of relief streamed down Lily's cheeks as she hugged her little brother. "Mommy, I was so scared," Tommy whispered, burying his face into her side, and Sarah's heart swelled. "I know, baby. But we did it together. We're safe now." With every heartbeat echoing hope, they breathed in the fresh air, stepping into the embrace of a dawn filled with endless possibilities. The nightmare dissolved, leaving only whispers of shadows in the wind. They had faced the unfathomable, and together, they had won. As they walked away, hand in hand, a small breeze stirred the trees, a promise of freedom carrying them to brighter tomorrows. But one thing was clear, they would never forget how strong their love could be in the face of unimaginable darkness. Remember, my friends, to escape the shadows of despair surrounding us in our own lives, we must embrace that fierce love, just as Sarah did. And now, if you don't want to miss out on more spine-chilling stories like this, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, because your voice matters. Make sure to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And for goodness sake, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. True fans know the importance of keeping this community alive and thriving.